But again, it's all learning curve across the board. I think all the time. I think every customer, every situation is always going to be different, no matter what. Nothing's cookie cutter in this industry at all by any means. Anybody's been doing it long enough, even if you've been doing it for a couple of days, you learn it real quick that it's every day while you do the same thing over and over again, it's completely different all the time. So.
Hello, and welcome into another episode of Facts Not Feelings. I'm your host, Brooke Furniss, and this week we're shifting gears just a little bit, and we're shifting into the hearts of employee growth, from baby boomers to Gen Zs or Gen A, on how to fuel the growth across generations into the automotive world. We're going to get under the hood with Robert Migliaccio. Did I say it right? Migliaccio? There we go. All right. He's a service director at CMA Valley, CDJR. I have literally said that I don't know how many times prior to this, Robert. And every time I'm like, all right, it's like I got marbles or something. I'm like, all right, I can say this. Nope, I just screwed it up again, but we're going to roll with it at this point. So once again, service director at CMA Valley, CDJR, a lot of acronyms because we're in the automotive world. We have to have a lot of acronyms. And we're going to rev up our knowledge on today's episode of Facts Not Feelings. So, Robert, welcome into the show. I'm so excited right now. So excited.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Super excited. All right, so let's jump in with something that's, I know, probably a little personal to you, but what was the pivotal moment in your career that deeply influenced perspective on employee growth?
I think for me, the biggest thing that really actually stood out was my own personal growth, kind of reflecting back and seeing, everything I wanted and where I was. And I had asked for, just big goals in my life for where I wanted my career and how I wanted to go. And, always wanted to work up to the top level of the position I was in. So, finding myself getting to a management position, when I finally got there, I learned that it became more than just being in that position for myself, but now more for growing the people underneath me to do the same thing. Really kind of what stuck with me, I had a mentor and a manager in the past who really kind of laid into me. And it was one of those good mantras that he kind of gave me, which really broke down to, treat everybody well so that they want to stay with you, but you train them to replace you. And ultimately that kind of stuck with me. He didn't hide anything from his job and what he did or feared me taking his job in any way, shape, or form. He taught me and showed me the ropes around everything that we did. And then at the end of the day, treated me well to the point where I didn't want to take that and actually go, off on my own. I wanted to stay there and work with that group and stay where I was. So eventually I just got to the point where, I reached plateaus where I couldn't grow anymore in those stores, but I got to where I was. And it just really changed me when I kind of started diving into myself and realizing I was given so much to the company, so much to my family, so much to people that needed stuff that I kind of lost sight of my own personal growth. And I realized that, one, I needed to take care of myself. And then secondly, once I took care of myself, what that meant to help take care of other people as well.
I love it. I think there's too often that we, to exactly what you're saying, is that we get so wrapped up in that we lose that perspective of what is really important. And yes, our jobs are important. Our careers are important. I love what I do. Obviously, I have a company and it is super important, but there are definitely bigger things that are more important than that. And so I love that you definitely saw it. So let's take that up to a little bit a broader perspective. Sure. How does the automotive industry, I'll say particularly with the company there at CMA, differentiate in fostering employee development?
So the big thing that happened when I got here is it became more than just a situation where we were trying to not only empower the staff around us, but we were also trying to grow the staff around us. So everything was implemented and based on a tiered program to grow staff, to show them not only how to be a porter, a detailer, a entry-level technician, but how you can grow from that into a service manager, a parts manager, a sales manager, a finance director, part owner in the company, GM, and stuff like that. So we put forward a career path for every individual that comes through to show them that we have the ability to not only take you in and let you learn and build a career to take care of yourself, take care of your family, whatever that needs to be, but ultimately a career path for you as well. So that way, that over time, putting in the work and doing these things involved, you can actually get yourself into a much higher, much better position and kind of grow yourself. And we've done a lot of different things here. Specifically in our Stanton group, we actually do a mentorship program. Our president actually here, Scott Simons, will actually run a mentorship program, which is about 10 to 12 weeks long. Each one, when we do it, there's probably roughly about maybe 15, 18 people that are in that. And then from that, you'll kind of see a couple dwindle out that don't really kind of stick to it or stay true to it. But it's an outside influence. It has nothing to do with the job here. Obviously, we're all staff members when we go into it. It's all independent, so we choose to go through it. It's not something that we're told that we have to go through. I guess you can say, the choice is yours when you go through it. But in that, you're put in a group with a bunch of accountability partners at that point in time, and then you're really kind of pushed through to grow yourself, whether it's health and fitness, whether it's financial, whether it's psychological. If you're kind of in a bad place in your head or stuff like that, everything's on the table, everything's open, all titles are checked at the door, and it's just a room full of people that are there to kind of work through and share either your knowledges of what we're good or share those things that were bad and how people can help you kind of get through. And that's really kind of where we've driven it. And then, CMA in a whole, we just do a lot of integration where we include the body of the store. So CMA is an ESOP company. We're an employee stock option. So every employee, after being here for so long, becomes invested in the company as an owner. So with that, we have owner meetings, which are monthly. They hold them on Zoom calls regularly, so everybody's involved in them. The second week, they'll do a leadership program, which is for all the leaders and managers. And then the third week will be all the general managers. And each one kind of piggybacks off the last meeting for that month on how not only all the staff's there, but now how the managers and leaders can focus on helping grow in the staff. And then how the general managers can help implement that with the leaders and the managers and can get that down to the staff. So it puts everybody on the same page and really kind of gets everyone growing into the same culture of what's trying to be grown across the board for the company as a whole.
There are so many things to unpack with what you just said there. I'm like going through and like mental check. Okay, I'm like literally like writing things down in my head mentally, which is always a scary thought. Let's be honest. But like a couple things there. Like one, I love the 12-week program thing. That is really, really cool. Like if I'm hearing you correctly, there's almost like different tracks you can take. If I'm hearing you correctly, is that correct?
Yeah. So with it, when you go through the program, I call it a program. It's really, I feel bad saying that. It's not really. It's 12 weeks of mentorship. It is really what it comes down to. And again, through that, we just touch base on multiple different things. So in my case, when I went through it, I was somewhat financially sound. I don't have financial issues. My wife and I, the kids, we have a pretty good, strong family at home. So there wasn't a lot of relationship aspects or financial things that I really need to go through in the program, but I was able to share things that worked for me to the group and how they could share. But for me, like I said, not taking care of myself was a big thing. So when I got here, part of the program, when I was in it, I was weighing 237 pounds at the time. Health and fitness was something that I'd kind of always put off for myself because I was so focused on everything else and everyone else. I never took the time for myself. So we got into there and kind of debated on, I debated on how long I needed to get to an ideal weight for myself. And realistically, it was kind of put on a deadline and said, hey, look, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do it by this time. And not only are you going to do it by this time, but, we're all going to hold you accountable to it. So I turned around from something I said I was going to take a year to do to 6 months to do to taking care of it in 3 months because I was just really bent on getting it done and proving that not only to myself, but everybody else that you can't call me out and say I'm not going to do it because I'm going to prove you that I can do it. So, so for me, that was my big takeaway from it was my health and my fitness and taking time for myself. So I took myself from 237 pounds. I'm down to 185 pounds now. Over a lot of that weight I dropped roughly over a course of 3 months. So I dropped like 40 pounds in 3 months and then slowly worked it out from there and kind of got, the little teetering pound or two here or there as I go now, but a much better place. But yeah, so everybody took away different things from it. Some of the people, again, had financial issues, just not good with money, splurging and different things like that. So we actually ran a how little can you live on for a week. So everybody was put on a budget plan and said, look, let's see who can live on the least amount of money over the course of a week. And I think one of the guys in our group ended up living on like $3. He bought I forget what he bought, like an energy drink or something like that. It was all he bought for the week, but everything else he cooked at home, made lunch at home, ate leftovers, pre-packed everything, and just ran through everything he had in the house before he spent a dime on anything else. It was pretty wild. So it was kind of fun little things like that, games like that we did. Different things like purchasing a house. We brought financial advisors in to speak on what's needed to buy a house, what you need to save money, how to budget. Again, obviously health and fitness was one. And then we actually had a therapist come in to one of ours, during ours specifically, and go through just kind of your mental state and different things that are there, and talk about the fact that it's okay to talk to people.
Yeah.
The basis is, if you got stuff going on and you don't have somebody you can talk to, there's groups and organizations, places you can reach out to help you if the group here isn't kind of your focal point, or somebody that you feel open to talk to. So it really does. It just takes it from a different level, from just caring about your employees and your staff, but like really kind of turning it into more of a family-based kind of situation. Like, there's actual care here. Everybody's involved with it. Everybody exchanges phone numbers. Everybody's on a text group. Everybody's communicating throughout the week. And again, just holding everybody accountable was the biggest thing.
Well, as you're going through all that, saying all this, and all I can think is, okay, that is not your prototypical dealership. And it's no knock to dealerships. It's I'm thinking, like, going through, I'm like, okay, can I think of another dealership? I can think of like maybe a handful of dealerships that would do anything like this for their employees.
Yeah.
Like, you're so often thinking about, okay, it's Manicure Monday, or it's, you got these little cool things for your customers. But
Yeah.
what are you doing for your employees to ensure that they're number one, that you care about them, that because maybe that, of course, we've done, as you know, we've done a lot of shows about this, but these are like really incredible actionable items that if you were an owner, if you're a manager, whether you're in the automotive industry or not, are you doing these things for your employees? Because we can talk about the cool, there's the Google ping pong table or the pool table, the nap pods. Those are things.
Yep.
Those don't actually speak to the human soul and speak to those things, which those translate to the people staying there and to that employee growth. And you're talking about the employee buy-in, and I'm not a Packers fan. I live in Chicago, so I'm not a Packers fan. And the Bears, I'm adopted. I'm not even, they're like my second team. But I'm thinking like the buy-in there, like everyone's an owner. Like at some point you become an owner, which is so cool, because the minute you own something, it's like the same thing for college, I paid for college. And so those things, like, or if you buy that car, you appreciate that so much more.
That's definitely the concept behind it with Liza and where she put it. That scale of CMA as owners just care more is what it goes into. And it's taking that into the respect of exactly that. As an owner, you're going to care more for what you're viewed as. And not only that, you can stand up and speak as an owner when you're taking care of a customer. You don't have to seek a manager out to make a decision to take care of somebody. Now, don't get me wrong. We take our lumps with it. It's one of those, do now and ask for forgiveness later situations in some cases. But realistically, at the heart of it, if somebody's truly trying to take care of a customer and deep down they really feel like they're taking care of a customer, did they really do anything wrong? Now, can we learn from it? Can we teach from it? Can we show them different ways to do it? Is there a better way to do it? Next time. But deep down, like I tell my staff and my advisors here specifically who are customer facing, in that regard, not so much the technicians and whatnot, but even with them, I guess, and in the decision on what they're going to do to help fix a car and stuff like that. But for the advisors speaking to a customer, if it comes down to, taking care of something or dealing with a situation where we have to, roll the punches on it, they're fully empowered to do so. And it's there for them. They know the basis of what it is. And again, it's more of a, if down at the core of it, we're looking at taking care of the customer. All we need to discuss at that point in time is just if there was different ways to do it. It may be the best way to do it, and that may have been the only option. But again, it's all learning curve across the board, I think, all the time. I think every customer, every situation is always going to be different, no matter what. Nothing's cookie cutter in this industry at all by any means. Anybody's been doing it long enough, even if you've been doing it for a couple of days, you learn it real quick that it's every day while you do the same thing over and over again, it's completely different all the time. So yeah, it is real nice. And I think that ownership aspect of it just changes up a little bit of a different feeling of how employee interacts and views themselves as well, because it's not a matter of titles in that situation. It's truly a matter of, I'm here and I have the empowerment from everybody from the top down that I can take care of what I need to take care of with people and get the job done.
Yeah, it is. And to your point is when you have the best interest of the person at hand, that it may not always work out the best. And just as a kid, like if you're a parent, your kid is still gonna scrape their knee, they're gonna break bones, like it happens. That things just happen, but you still have the best interest of that child or that customer or your employee at hand, things are still going to happen. So shifting gears a little bit. So there is so much technology change, whether it's AI, whether I was interviewing some other Allie Peters recently, and we were talking about what she uses in Cavender and just different things of how to help out. But there's so much rapid technology right now.
Mhm.
So how do you all ensure that your employees are growing and adapting with all of this change?
It's definitely a struggle. Being in an American brand, it's a unique situation. We're in a small town in I guess outside of western part of Virginia, not West Virginia, but western part of Virginia. So it's a small area out here. It's a little more rural, and for us, we actually embrace technology very well. We use electronic multi-points. We're still a little behind on times. We're still working on situating and working through electronic multi-points, but it's been interesting because as I took over the store and as I worked here, I came from a metro area. In the metro area, I had struggled with technicians and advisors really kind of taking on the technology. So I thought it was going to be an absolute struggle when I got down here, and it was completely a 180 when I got here. The staff that was here, they utilize the technology, they utilize the electronic aspect of it, allowing the multi points to carry through and go over to the parts department and parts to advisors and kind of go through that whole thing. We're investing in different aspects of technology for our tire machines, our alignment machines, and ways to check them and grow from there, which again, I know a lot of companies, a lot of groups are already there. And it's great. It's really good technology. It's very impressive, all the stuff that's coming out. I think I'm really blessed with where I'm at and the group we have here. Everybody's really embraced it very well. And just like any other process, it's as much as you put in is as much as you get out. So having a group that are interested in actually learning and caring, I think is truly helpful with that. Our age diversity is pretty minimal here. We have some younger techs and some older techs, nothing too crazy. It's a pretty good mix throughout the shops. And again, realistically, we just kind of roll with it and go at it. From an auto group, our big focus for this year has been trying to get all the stores up and running on digital multi-points with video AI and then involved in that, and looked at multiple different AI sources for phone technologies and communications. And, we're just kind of working through the hurdles of it because there's so much out there, and just like anything else, it's going so quickly. It's a matter of what company is going to do what you need. And I think it's partnering with the right group that has the same kind of concepts and views that you do that allow that to work seamless with your staff and whatnot. So we're definitely in the pivoting point of transitioning into all that and kind of learning and growing. But again, it's a focus point from the top down, which is really good. It's not something that we're trying to build up and independently on this store and that store and whatnot. We're as a group collectively trying to figure out the ways to make this advance and go across the board and work for us.
And it's true. It's just trying to find that balance of, okay, does this company, they may be an awesome company, but they might just not be the best fit for us and our processes and our people. Where this company over here is still an awesome company, but they're a better fit for us. And trying to find that balance to know that, okay, with all of the technology we have in our dealership, plus our people, this is the best fit for us. In order for us to both have success, this is the best fit for us. And the fact that you're taking time to work backwards, to work forwards, and really figure that out, that right there is the key point, or there to try to really figure out what is going to work best for us. So in light of finding that balance, how do you also find the balance between allowing employees to learn from their failures? And I call it a failure, but we have to really learn from those failures, because without failures, we don't have that success. So how do you allow your employees to learn from their failures versus that constant pressure to maintain the top tier services and those CSI scores that are always coming down at them?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm that person. No, I'm just kidding. It's definitely hard. I think for me, I've come to learn for myself. I always had either a mentor or an anti-mentor. I had the ones that showed me the good things. I had the ones that showed me the bad things. And I felt like I always took so much away from the ones that told me the bad things on how I didn't want to be when I eventually got to where I wanted to go, because I had the dreams of where I wanted to be when I was coming up through the companies. And that was a big part of who I felt I needed to identify as. I didn't need to identify as the guy that, made you go home fearful of your job or made you fearful of me all the time. I ask my staff a couple different things. I ask them to show up on time and ask them to do their job while they're here. If you can't do those two things, obviously I think we have some other issues in a lot of part. If they're willing to do those two, it makes it really easy for me to kind of work with them and deal with them, because if you're here and you're willing to work and do your job, that means you're able to be trained and taught to do things that we need to do. So realistically, we spend a lot of time on our processes, going through. We've catered away from some of the things that may not be very typical in the auto industry for how we check customers in, or things that we do with our customers. But again, I think it works for us and it works for our store. I can't say that works at every store. But I think just taking the time, doing the one-on-ones, really kind of being involved in evaluating where your staff is in any position, express technicians, porters, advisors, main shop technicians, things like that. I think it's just a matter of working with each one individually, because you have to find out ultimately what their role is in your shop and how you can best coordinate what's going to kind of drill into that. So, if people aren't pushed by kicking the butt every once in a while, it's not going to work for them if you try to work with them that way. So really identifying and knowing your staff, and a lot of the guys that I'm in groups with and other managers, other positions throughout the dealerships, everybody has that mantra of going into that just differently. Like really it's a basis of what our staff needs and what each individual needs from us. And it's really learning that it's not a one person model for everything. We have to get from point A to point Z. If you have your own little way of doing it in between there, as long as you hit the touch points of what I need done in between there, there's no reason why your process needs to be a little bit different than anybody else's. It doesn't need to be the same, but I need the same results at the end of the day is the main goal. But realistically, make it your own and get there, as long as we're hitting all the key points and throughout that. And I think we do a fairly decent job on it. Everybody here is pretty open to what they're able to do and how they take care of it. And realistically, across the board, if you were to watch all of them independently, you'd see that they all kind of do the same process, somewhat same way, but yet a little bit different in their own and how they kind of handle it. So it's been good. It's been good so far.
I love it. I love it. So you've been in the industry for a bit. We're going to call you a veteran at this point. You've been around for a bit now. So did a little bit. So from your experience, what's a misconception that I'm going to say leaders, because you know how I feel about titles. I'm not a big fan of titles. So for a misconception that leaders have about nurturing growth in their teams.
I think the misconception that a lot of people get into is the my way or the highway situation. I think is a big one that's always been portrayed in the industry, especially coming up. I came up through the later part of the 90s, early 2000s, and that was just kind of teetering off the real aggressive kind of 80s, 90s group of what people kind of thought everything was and how management styles needed to be. And realistically, I think that's the biggest one. I think finding a balance of leadership and mentor versus just kind of a dictatorship here is really a good key for it, because we get in the midst of it and, getting angry. I guess you can kind of bring it back, take it like you said, when you have your kids at home or stuff, for those that have kids, you really learn to kind of, you're trying to lead from the front, but at the same time, you're also trying to let them kind of grow on their own. Some things need your foot put down on, and other things need to kind of be let go. But realistically, you get more out of the conversation that you get teaching somebody more so than just kind of forcing it down on them and kind of barking at them from the top. Some places, some things, I guess you have to have those positions, and every once in a while it's going to happen, because not everything's perfect. Not everything's, butterflies and unicorns, but we definitely live in a strong, thick-skinned environment a lot of the time. And
you better have thick skin at least.
yeah. And so at the end of the day, I think we all come back to the aspect of if I can send the staff back and have them come. Not so much. I don't look at the friendship aspect. I don't need them all to be my friends. I really do kind of look at it like children and whatnot. Like, I want my kids to love me. I want my kids to have a good relationship with me. But I don't need them to fear me either. At the same time, I need them to know that they can come to me, ask me questions, work with me. I can help them. They can help me, and we can get to kind of where we need to go. But I think we're slowly watching that aspect of that kind of go away as more and more people are kind of venturing into the business and really kind of taking the role in a different path. And like you said, not so much a titled position, but more of a leadership role is where we see it. And I kind of preach it to them that when they do good, I do good. It's not about I have the benchmarks that I'm pushing for them to help hit because it helps them do well in their position. And when they do well, my technicians are doing well, and everybody's kind of hitting the ball and doing what they need to do, they have little worries to worry about. And then for the same token, it helps me, and it kind of eliminates a lot of all the other aspects that we fight with. And, back to CSI and all those other things that you discussed in our world with the manufacturers, that's a big driver. So, when your employees are here happy, you're going to get a much happier situation. I think you have interactions that are better with customers. If they're here frustrated, thinking their job's on the line every day, obviously it creates a little bit of a hostile situation. And I think it's a little tougher for people to kind of follow suit with what you're trying to do if they're constantly on their toes all that much. It's a good balance. I think there's a good balance of both that you have to have still.
Yeah, and there's, as you know, with any CSI, there's stuff that's out of your control. I mean, if it's something where you're handing off a car to someone that's washing it, this person doesn't have control whether this person, yes, there's a processing, but there's definitely things that are out of your control. So once again, it comes down to that learning experience. And so I always love the example. I was working with an OEM at the time, and they were literally getting docked if they wanted express service. But in the survey, it was, did you set an appointment? Wait. So I literally went to I'm going to work for the OEM. I go, wait, so just to make this clear, you're docking the service department. You're pushing express service, but you're literally asking them, do they set an appointment? And they can't answer that. If they answered it truthfully, is they didn't. And then they get docked on it. They're like, yeah. I go, so you're setting them up to fail, correct? They go, yes, we are. I go, what are you doing?
Well, welcome to the survey.
and so we just had this, but there's multiple questions like that. So it's yes, you're setting them up to fail, and there's not just, that's just one example, but the same thing is that it's a teaching moment to understand. The CSI will, but I still love you. This is not your fault. You can still get a cookie, whatever it be, but understand how the system works or how the process works, and making sure that when someone sees that, it's not just a snap reaction of oh, you suck, you got your CSI dropped. Calm down, knowing whether it's a bonus structure, however the bonus is set up, if it's tied to that CSI, and it's a lose-lose situation. How is that? Once again, just going back to process and understanding your people and the process of all the processes.
And then a big part of understanding your people and going back to employee growth. So we judge every survey independently. They don't get a group rating. Obviously, their CSI score in a whole means something, but realistically, we look at each individual survey that they get, and then we also evaluate. So if my employee, for that case in point, if I have an employee that gets a survey back and the customer says they didn't wash my car, and it's not the advisor's fault, and he has a dock from that or doesn't get paid for that, we'll actually evaluate that and say, look, that's 100% not your fault. You're still taken care of on your CSI. Understand your scores for the manufacturer may not be what they need to be, but from a standpoint internally, what we look at and how we treat it for the employee, you're on a case-by-case basis. So every customer you have a clean slate with every time. So if you get that one customer that you're just not a fit for, because ultimately there's just people that are not your customer. If anything I could tell anybody on CSI and in the industry is, if you and an employee do not fit together and that customer, if you and a customer don't fit together and that customer keeps coming back, move them to a different advisor.
Move them quickly.
And if it's a constant thing across advisors, then it's a customer concern, not so much an employee concern at that point. But
yes,
there's just personality clashes. And I think, some people, no matter how great they can be, obviously, we can't make every person in the world love us. No matter how much we want to. So taking that on a case-by-case basis for them, I think really kind of free them up on CSI, that if somebody burns them on one, for lack of a better words, they know it's not going to kill their entire month or take away anything from their entire month. They still have the next customer and the next customer and the next customer to take care of and actually recoup all that and take advantage of it in a whole. So we definitely do the same thing. We try to make sure it's a case-by-case situation, and everything that's evaluated on the bad side of things is evaluated appropriately. And if it was in their control and honestly all reflected to them, then, that's a learning curve. There we go. We got to teach from it. And, that at that point.
Yeah. It's just sometimes, honestly, you just have to fire the customer like that. There are times when that happens, man. It's
you say that, right? That's what I have to say. Yes, fire the
All right. So we've talked about a couple different things here. How do you then take and balance the technical training aspect of training your employees and that technical aspect of it, and also along with the softer skills like customer relationship management, and then like how do you do both of those, because they're both really important, but you got to balance them.
I agree. The benefits of, I think, working for an OEM or for a manufacturer dealer compared to like an independent, we get so much handed to us from the manufacturer. So I'll give them credit where credit is due, because obviously that, never want to bash on the manufacturer, because there's a lot of struggles that we have, because you got to keep everything that they want as well with their programs and stuff. So
oh yeah,
let's be truthful, that is there. But the one thing I think that they provide us across the board, and I've worked with a number of different OEMs over the years, they definitely put forth an aspect to create training to be provided from the manufacturer. So how do we take that one step further? For us here at CMA, we actually implemented having our own trainers. So we have two corporate trainers that go through, and I should say one corporate trainer. The other one is the assistant to him with the training. But she does a lot of our brand engagement aspects of it to make sure that we're staying on task and everything. So what we end up seeing there is he'll go through and, we developed a kind of like a service advisor 101 course for our advisors when they start, something that they can go through, brings up our values from a company, and then also brings up the values of what a service advisor is, and then allows us to do a little more one-on-ones independently with them for the customer side of things. And then the overall training itself, again, I think just comes from taking the time to do the one-on-ones with not only the advisors, but, even the technicians, working through, like you said, we have an express lane here as well. So working through our express team, just to use them as an example, when we get a new express technician in, me personally taking the time to actually walk through the process with them, not just the other technicians that's there, going through the process, and making sure that the ideals of what we want done are being there, and what we want are being fulfilled by them, so they know what to look for and kind of what they're getting graded on in essence in that regard. So the inspect what you expect kind of situation, I think, really comes into play across the board in any of the positions. We can't really hold anybody accountable if we haven't given them a clear direction of what we need of them. So it comes down from us from the top, and sharing that leadership, setting that benchmark together and working together with it. And ultimately just kind of getting it together in a whole and training. It's got to come down to training at the end of the day. We have to take the time. I know it's hard for us to say that and step away from everything else that we're doing across the board, but sometimes it just needs to be handled, and we got to get out there and get on the front line with them and kind of share knowledge, and if not, learn what's different. Sometimes you'll go out there and learn that they can teach you a lot about the way you want stuff done and how it can impact on the front line daily when they're doing it, compared to how you kind of foresee it in your head sometimes. So I think it goes both ways. We do definitely got to teach and learn from each other and help each other out.
Yes. And so we started off this entire conversation with talking about how you've got Gen Z, you've got multi-generations to baby boomers. So how do you cater to those multi-generation workforces in the same workspace? Like there's a lot, and that's, I remember even like teaching, like it's not the easiest thing sometimes. So how do you go about doing that?
It's a lot of fun. I got a couple older guys that barely check their email every day, let alone, are willing to pick up their phone and kind of, take pictures and do video and stuff like that. So it's been a unique situation. I think a lot of it, having a younger shop here for us across the board in our 5 stores that we have here in Stanton, we have a good position in that generational aspect. We have a mentorship program in our shop. So specifically in our shop, that aspect with our apprentices that we bring in, they're working with our senior technicians. So they're instilled to be kind of teachers and mentors to the technicians within the shop. So they're not only teaching them, but I think we're also getting that growth pattern of, that generational breakdown of electronics and technology and what they bring to the table, and kind of showing them how to do a lot of stuff. And I think a little family competition every once in a while helps with that, to bring them aboard, and back to kind of putting your foot down every once in a while. I think we've just reached the point where some of these things we just have no choice. It's going to be a matter of us having to put our foot down and just say, this is where we're going with it. Obviously the older generation, giving them just the support they need and the extra training that they need if they require it. some people pick it up very well, some don't. And again, I think we just kind of go back to the case by case situation, because I still get some younger kids that you'd be surprised don't check their email, don't check their text messages, actually don't play on their phone all day, which is an amazing thing to say and see. But they take to the electronic aspect of everything we do very well. And all that we have on our DMS and our CRMs and everything that we touch here is all computer-based and electronic anymore. So we have very little handwritten in what we do back and forth between the shop parts and our advisors and the sales department and everything. So everything is communicated, even as small as we use a shop tool to communicate through the shop through messaging, and everybody's on it. And it works great, keeps the technicians in their bay, keeps the advisors at their desks, and allows everybody to kind of do their job from where they need to be primarily, and very little time spent away from their workstations, having to kind of get away other than short interactions on things that need to be actually discussed and reviewed over, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I think each approach is going to be a little bit different. Each person is going to be a little bit different. And ultimately, just got to, I'm going to say it, you just got to put your foot down. You got to push towards it. And if you need to go a certain way with technology, you got to get there. You have to stay up times and help bring it to the forefront, because they're only going to get more and more advanced. And if you're too far behind, it's going to be tough to catch up at that point.
Yeah. So one thing you see a lot, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is you'll see employees that will go laterally or they'll go upwards. You know, and we always think, well, we got to climb the ladder, so it's got to go up. So can a lateral move and diversification of skills be just as valuable?
I think so. Case in point, we actually had a good situation happen here. We had an express advisor that we hired. He was he's still an active military guy, which was very nice, helping out somebody who's in the military. And we had him in the shop. He's a little bit older, and not to say that he couldn't do the job in the shop as well, but we had an opportunity where we saw his skill set would be better for us as an advisor. So it wasn't necessarily that he got promotion, but he got a lateral move that took him in a different position that'll take him to a much different scale of what he's kind of doing with his career and kind of where he's going. And I think ultimately one of the best things you can do, and we're actually working towards it now as a leader group in CMA now, is evaluating each employee, taking where they are and realizing if they're in the right position or not. You may not have the right people in the right position. Somebody may want to be a technician, but they may not be a great technician. They may only be a good technician or okay technician. They might only, turn 30 to 40 hours a month, and you might find out that they have really good people skills and can really turn your service advisor position upside down and just really boom there. So I think evaluating everybody, one, making sure they're where they want to be for themselves, knowing their career path. I'll take into account, being that we're discussing it from our viewpoint, one of the things that we do is actually at the beginning of the year, we set 3 personal, 3 professional goals for everybody within the positions. And then as leaders, we go through them with them, kind of hone them in. So if somebody says, I want to save money, that's not really relatively a definitive goal, but how are you going to save money? So we'll break that down with them and work on them. So we'll see that a lot of times their professional goals are to kind of learn more and advance more, so that we can take that and create different views of how we're going to do that and say, okay, is this a career path you want? Do you want to stay as a technician and keep working towards your master as a master technician, or do you want to actually focus on doing something a little different? Do you want to be an advisor? Do you want to do sales? Do you want to do parts? Find that perfect fit for them. And it's amazing what happens when you move people up to the right position, because you get, like you said, you might have some plateaued employees that just are not going up or down. They're just kind of bench line, and then you get them in their right spot, their right fit, and they kind of open up, and then you just really get to see the pure benefit of what they can offer to the company. And I think it definitely helps out in the long run, just taking that focus and honing it in.
Yes, 100% yes. So I want to take this a little bit further on this one. So talk about employee growth, and sometimes that employee growth leads to the employee leaving the organization. So how do you reconcile that when the employee is like, yes, I've done such an awesome job, you've helped me so much, but now I'm taking my skills and taking them to South Beach. Like, what do you do now? So what happens?
I mean, if you're going to South Beach, that's it's hard. It definitely hurts. We do it through here, I think, a fair bit. I've lost and moved on a couple technicians to other stores here. It definitely hurts. It's not the aspect that you want to see, because you do invest, let's be honest, time and money. It's all part of what that comes down to. I love to see the growth of people. I think it's an awesome experience to see them kind of go and fulfill. And I think it comes back to the other question of putting them in the right position. If ultimately there's no place here and they're held back and they have aspirations and they're good at what they do, if we can't find them a home, I think it doesn't do us justice to try to hold them back just to keep them here. Sometimes I will say, I think some people just need to see, and the grass is greener situation. They need to realize that maybe it's not the company that they thought it was, or stuff like that. So I think there's some key things to our company that are different than others that we try to promote more so than just working here, but more so the overall benefits of everything that you get from working from the company. So I like to sit down. I like to make sure that we're definitely combating an apples to apples situation. And, I think a lot of the, it's just pay driven aspects you can get over and around. Some people are just looking for that, but if it comes down to a title, position, and advancement, and we just don't have the offer to it, and that's what they're going for, I think it's hard to hold an employee back from it. And sometimes I think it helps their growth. They need to see it for what it is, and it's probably not the most ideal way to look at things. And I'm not probably in some good marks with other people as I hear that, but I'm not a fan of holding people back. I think the benefits have to be there. And like I said, I think it comes back to what I said from, a previous mentor. If you treat somebody well, they're going to want to stay. You give them everything, you teach them everything, they'll want to keep working with you. But ultimately, if you can't find them a home, you got to do something a little bit different to try to help them out. That might be moving them on. We're lucky to have multiple stores close in proximity, so it may be a matter of us needing to move them from one store to another, which we've done in different aspects and different positions, from sales and service and parts and whatnot. So it's not uncommon. I don't think it's uncommon anymore. I'd hate to lose them to a competitor, because I think that's just tough. I think we have so much to offer as a company. So when we lose somebody to a competitor, definitely a little personal. It hurts a little bit, but if they're advancing themselves and it's a much better position, I think it's hard to really kind of stand on any ground to say that you should really be holding them back at that point in time. So
I agree. I mean, if anything, it's such a testament to you as a manager of what you've done to take your little seedling, your little child, and oh, look, now they've moved on to college. Now they've moved on. It's if anything, that's I go back to just what you've done as a manager to make them flourish. And, it's different if it's a toxic environment, but if it's a really great environment, all it's done is yeah, good job. This is what we've done. This is what I want you to do, is to grow. And You've outgrown here, and now you're moving on to greener pastures, whether it might not be greener on the other side or whether it is or not. Good for you. That's awesome. It's so, yeah. And it's just part of our industry, and in any industries that you grow, and you hopefully you're always growing and moving forward. That's the whole point, is to constantly be moving and growing and all of that. So I absolutely love that. Robert, it has been such a pleasure catching up with you. So much fun. It's very much needed topic, as always. And I was really thinking okay, how can we take this a little bit differently? And you and I originally met, I believe it was on Fixed Ops Roundtable. I believe that's where we first met. And I was oh, this guy's amazing. So I had you on my list. This has been a year in the making, having you on the list to bring you on the show. So absolutely love having you on the show. But it is that time where we have to jump into the lightning round with you now. So right. First and foremost, for those that are listening and for those that are watching, you can still, if you're listening, you can't see it, but if you're watching, you've got his Robert's personalized link here. But for those that are listening, how can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
I'm all over. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me. I'm out there. I'm very active on social media. So reach out. More than welcome to discuss and grow with anybody. Plenty of groups out there that I'm a part of that are willing to kind of invent and bring new people in all the time. So feel free to reach out.
Fantastic. And this link will take you into his link tree where it's literally everything's on there. So you all know the drill at this point. So Robert, the name of the show is Facts Not Feelings. So whether it's in personal life or in your professional life, business, professional, whatever, how are you distinguishing facts from feelings?
For me, it's just definitely trying to trying to break that barrier and keep specs and feelings, here at the workplace as best as I can. We try to keep those numbers projected right to what they need to be, all the benchmarks where they need to be, and then just, keep the feelings out of it as much as possible. Like I said, be a leader more so than anything, and just kind of show the way. So it's been a unique situation here. It's been good.
I love it. I love it. All right. So one of the questions that I don't know if I've asked this before to any of my guests, so you might be the first one, is if you could have one superpower, what's it going to be?
I don't even remember what I put it down for.
Crap.
No, I think mine was actually, I think I told you that mine would be, being able to read minds. I think having that ability to kind of get a feel for everybody around you and understand kind of what they're thinking, what's going on with them. And I think it'd be fun to mess with some people too with having that power. I think it'd be a cool one to have.
You mess with people? Never. I don't know what you're talking about in that way. I love it. All right. So let's round it out with, what is your favorite car?
Man. So it's been tough. I really don't have like this, like, I'm like, this is my car. This no matter it is. I really love SUVs. Range Rovers have kind of always been my dream car and kind of been focused on, but anything in an SUV kind of situation. I don't think I'm a big car guy as much as I love driving them and going fast and stuff like that. But just any kind of cool SUV, as long as it drives good, looks good, I don't mind driving it.
Yeah, you've got in here that a Range Rover Sport, I believe is what you put in here. So Range Rover Sport at some point. So that's on that you're going to have at some point. At some point, you're getting there. I love it. All right, well, Robert, thank you so much for being with us today. I so appreciate it. And everyone, I know that you have a choice to consume content, podcasts, anything of that nature, anywhere. And I so appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and learn from Robert and his amazingness. And with that, everyone, find a way to serve today. Find a way to just be the joy in someone's life today, whether that is opening a door from someone, whether that is a kind smile, just be the joy in someone's life today. And with that, everyone, we will see everybody next